Experience RTX and DLSS with a free Deliver Us the Moon game with the purchase of any EVGA GeForce RTX-enabled graphics card. To see the full lineup of RTX-enabled video cards from EVGA and to learn more about this free game offer, head to the link in the description below. So this is the A500 from, my point is, oh, my knife is broken. Okay, that sucks.
Good point.
This is the A500 from Corsair. They launched this at CES. We were not there because we took this year off. But I'm curious, what happens when a company like Corsair that started making memory and then made peripherals, and then started making water cooling parts, is now making air coolers. I don't know if this is an OEM or ODM of some sort, or if this is their own design. But regardless, we're gonna take a look today at the A500 air cooler from Corsair. And we're unboxing it together, first impressions and everything together. So here's what you get in the box. You get some tissue paper. So I'm assuming this is gonna be mounting brackets, and then we've got kind of a cheap inner plastic, I guess. I would have expected this to maybe be foam or something, but who cares? As long as it gets to where it's going, doesn't break apart or fall apart, doesn't get damaged. Wow. Dude, this is beefy. Oh, another screwdriver. Looks like someone's been watching Be Quiet. For starters, we'll talk about the appearance of it. So this is kind of a brushed metal with a textured metal on the outside. So it looks like this is just textured metal, and then they like cut it, right? So that's how you get that. Is this magnetic? Yeah, it is snapic. It snaps down. So that's how you get down to put the screws and stuff in there. So obviously there's 1, 2, 3, 4 heat pipes. I'm assuming this is gonna be a vapor chamber. Then you can see right there, their honeycomb or their grid pre-installed thermal paste is already on there. So this should be really, really simple. Something else that this particular cooler is known for too is the fact that these fans are able to move up and down this track. And I also like the fact that you can take these off easily. Oh, so you can get a better look at the design of the actual fin stack right there. But you can see it's got these kind of a spring-loaded little tabs right here that fit into these grooves inside of the fan mount. So that allows you, if you have tall RAM, to be able to slide your fan up without having to deal with the stupid clips and stuff like we were fighting with the Be Quiet. So let's say, for instance, we got some RAM that impacts there. We could actually just slide that up. Comes with what appears to be their very basic, same fans you'd find with like their air coolers and stuff. So it is a static pressure fan. If only it were black, I think it would fit perfectly with this, but you can easily change this to like light loops or something like that. And then other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about. It does come with, like I said, its own screwdriver. So that's how you get down to the mounting springs or screws. Very simple, actually. It looks like it's mostly assembled for you. So you don't have to put the fans on, you don't have to put the stupid little springs on, the brackets or any of that. In terms of mounting, retention system fits most AMD and Intel CPUs. Yeah, but which AMD? Does it have TR4 or only AM4 or what? Okay, AM4, AM3 and AM2. LGA 20XX, which that's gonna be all like 2066, 2011, you got your 1150X. So pretty much every Intel will be included right here. Got a tube of thermal paste, that's their XTM50, and then we've got 3 zip ties, as well as a PWM fan splitter. So it's a single to dual because there's 2 fans here. So if your fan only has 1 header, or you want to obviously have both fans run at the same speed, you split it off the same header for your CPU or your CPU optional or whatever. Phil was saying it's kind of nice that they give you an extra tube of thermal paste, almost an extra tape of thermal boost. That's because obviously with that grid on the bottom, if you mess that up, then you're not like, oh man, now what? So at least you have some. They don't have to give you that, but they do. So that's nice. So with that, let's get this water block off here. Let's get this installed and see how well it cools. It's kind of exciting because air coolers have definitely been getting better. And because of that, it's been making more people able to experience the fun of water cooling and such, or overclocking without having to go with water cooling, which back in the day was a requirement, but not so much anymore. So now I'm gonna install it obviously on Intel chipset, which I feel like would be the harder install. I don't know, AMD's got little spacer things, but whatever. So I take these little backing plate stickers off. So iFixit also has tweezers. And I'm using those now. It's actually just really stuck on there. It may not even be me. So this is gonna be a little bit harder because it's on the test bench and I can't really see behind, but if you have a standard case, it'd probably be pretty simple. Now this is the part I was just saying, like you have to determine which way you want the cooler to be going. So in this case, it would be going like front and back like that, which I think would be perfectly fine. It doesn't look like it'll impact with our graphics card at all. So you can see right there, it's not even coming close to our VRM, but RAM could potentially be a problem. So that means that we get to try out that little nifty slider deal-bobber thingy on there. There we go. What we're doing is the idiot install method, where if it can survive me doing it without looking at the manual, then it means it can survive anyone doing it. Now for all of these mounts, all the screw threads stop prior to causing any damage to anything. So with the motherboard mounting mechanism, the cooler mounting mechanism, like these screws going down through here, you just bottom them out. They're not gonna over tighten anything. Man, do you wanna talk about like a glove? So now we can take our fans and we know that the air always moves through the cage rather than that way. Maybe if we blow through that way, we can blow some air on the back of the graphics card. There. And then now you'll get to see how lucky we really kind of got with this cooler clearing this RAM and stuff. There. So now you can see, like, this is where a standard cooler, you'd just be like, oh man, I gotta take my RAM out. But you could just unplug your fan and whoop, look at that. This is the kind of stuff that makes me go, you know what? I will go ahead and do a video about this cooler because it's different. No one else has anything like that. They have the stupid clip retention system, which I hate with a passion. Here, why don't we time it? I'll put it back. When we time how long it actually will take me to get the RAM out.
Ready? And 3, 2, 1, go. 8.24 seconds.
Now granted, I'm on a test bench, standing in front of the system, like already torn apart. But the thing is, you could do the very same thing with a tower. When the side panel's off, go. That's a cool design. Corsair, you get an A+ in my book for that one, because this is one of the things I've personally always hated about air cooling, especially with these big towers, is just how much of a pain in the butt they can be when it comes to your RAM. Now my question right now is gonna be, the way that this RAM is pushing on the cooler slightly, is that gonna cause me any sort of cooling issue if it's lifting the cooler a little bit? I don't think that'll be a problem. It's really not like, it's not lifting it really. One thing to consider though, if you're going this way, I think there's a big enough gap for air to still make it out of there. I don't think it'll affect too much, but that's a legitimate thing to consider, right? Now the loud fans you might be hearing are actually the radiator fans. I don't think my mic's picking it up, but there is a hum coming from loud fans. It's not the cooler, it's the radiator. Since I unplugged it, it's not getting a PWM signal, which is now defaulting to 100%. So here's hardware monitor. This is our core temp right here. Our core clocks are down here. I've got it locked in performance mode for 5 gigs. It doesn't move from that. So what we're gonna be looking at here obviously is our core temperatures, because that matters most. And to do that, one of the stress tests we like to do around here is Cinebench R20 on a 10-minute loop. But we're looking at here, whoa, I don't think it's making good contact. So I think maybe that memory might be lifting it a little bit. So let's go ahead and rotate it. What do you think? I mean, it made contact, but it's not great. So we're gonna be putting on their thermal paste that they provided us. Now you know why they provide that thermal paste. So it's still gonna be a legit test because it's their thermal compound. So I'm gonna rotate these 2 brackets to like that, and then we'll reassess the impact it's having. Yeah, as you can see, this all fits in there just fine. So we were not able to get our Trinet Z on there. So now we want the air to go that way. So we can just be like, joop. Oh, I missed. So that. I love this fan mounting system. Holy crap, that is so awesome. So obviously if you have tall RAM, it's something to consider, and I could have put the graphics card back over there now. The only thing I feel like this cooler is missing, honestly, is lighting. I feel like a brand like Corsair, I'm surprised they did not RGB the crap out of that. So because we had to clear CMOS because of different memory, everything's set to 5 gigahertz, turning off AVX offset. I want to pump as much heat into this as I can. All right, once again, 10-minute test and go. Now let's not forget, we are on an air-cooled CPU being pushed to 5 gigahertz. The 9900K is known to be hot. This is also AVX instruction, which I have turned to 0, which means it did not offset negative clock. So 3 would be 300 megahertz negative clock. So if it goes, oh, this is an AVX instruction, we're gonna downclock by 300 megahertz. So it would be 4.7 all-core right now. We're not doing that. We are letting it completely see how hot it can go. Now this is one of those, like, this particular test underwater, usually sitting in the 70s, sometimes the 80s, some high 60s on the cores. There's quite a temperature spread on this particular CPU. But as you can see, we have not hit any sort of throttling whatsoever. We're still at 5 gigahertz. The temperatures are very well under control. Albeit this is not something I would like run all day long every day if my workload consisted of this type of task. R20 is, that's a torture test, not even a stress test, to be honest. That's why, like, we can run 3D Mark and get like those world record scores like we were last year, and then not even have a single hope of actually running a Cinebench, because it will crash like immediately. So it's one of those things where the fact that we were running 4 gigs or 5 gigs with this air cooler are pretty impressive. So let's see what we're getting here now. Yeah, so you can see this is a much more realistic type of temperature torture test. And this is a CPU test. Like, this is also AVX instruction. So that just really goes to show you how incredibly difficult Cinebench can be on your CPU when it comes to temperatures. And that's why I also use Cinebench when looping when testing my water loops and stuff, because it's literally the worst case scenario. Yeah, and it's only gonna get better too as the thermal paste kind of cures and gets a little bit harder and makes a better bond between the metals. A lot of people don't realize this, thermal paste is at its worst when you first apply it. And then once you get it nice and hot and then let it cool down, then it sort of solidifies and then it's even better. So one of the things you can do too with thermal paste, like we just had to change it obviously using the one that they applied, do a burn-in test like this. Maybe do like 10, 15 minutes, get it nice and hot so it can kind of get runny and get into all the voids. And then what you do is you turn off your system and let it cool for a couple hours to like truly turn into that paste. Then you'll notice the temperatures are a lot better. But yeah, so that was pretty good. Now let's go ahead and do a more standard, like just a GPU test with a CPU showing on screen. So I would expect maybe add 10C to those temperatures for actual gaming load. Like if you're playing a game that has, you know, things happening in the background, RPGs, that sort of stuff. I think it's pretty obvious that this cooler definitely is going to rank up there, and we need more user feedback. We need more people to buy it, obviously, and report on their experiences. But I think this is going to definitely rank up there with like the Noctuas and the Be Quiet Dark Rock Pros and stuff like that. It is a twin cooling tower, 2 120 millimeter fans and push-pull. And clearly it's got the amount of fin stack you would need to give you plenty of surface area to dissipate that heat. And these fans aren't even ramping up because they're not under enough load. I mean, look, they're at 40C, 41, 42, 46, 40. Let's talk about some final thoughts. One, I think it's gonna rank up there, no problem, with the Noctuas and the Be Quiets and all that sort of stuff. The issue we had with the RAM, this is not Corsair's fault. It's this particular non-traditional layout of this motherboard. We kind of looked at it and we realized, like, okay, if the memory was over here, because remember that CPU socket, like I said, it's a square, so no matter which way you rotate it, it's gonna be in the same spot. But if the memory were over here, it would be farther away from the CPU socket, meaning it would be interfering with the fan, which is adjustable, like we talked about, and not the bottom of the heatsink. So that's this particular non-traditional motherboard layout that caused that. It was easily rectifiable for us to just switch to the ballistics memory, because we have standard height memory laying around, obviously, because we're a computer building channel, but that doesn't mean everyone does. So Trident Z didn't fit on this motherboard with this cooler. So that's one thing to consider. If you're running this motherboard, low profile memory or standard height profile memory is what you're gonna need. But the actual adjustment of the fans themselves, if this was a traditional layout, we could have easily just, would have fit right there, no problem whatsoever. So I really, really like this particular mechanism here. I also am looking at this going, this would be pretty cool for like a future mod, because this can be taken off and painted. You can paint the fan mount mechanism and not have to paint the fins, which could reduce its efficiency in cooling because of insulating factors of paint on metal heat sinks. But you can also change out these fans to LED fans if you want, RGB fans, and then you would get the light up aspect that you would probably expect with this particular cooler. So that brings us to the very last talking point, and that is price. Well, it's $99, putting it at the exact same price of the NH-D15, which is the all black Noctua cooler, and the same price as like some of the Cooler Master giant coolers, same price as like the Dark, well, it's actually more expensive than the Dark Rock. Dark Rock Pro is right around the same price as this. So it definitely has some steep competition, well-established competition in air coolers in the industry that people have just been completely trusted. You know, people put their trust in Noctua. People put their trust in Dark Rock. They've been around. People know they perform just as good as many AIOs. So really it's going to come down to whether or not you are going to trust Corsair. So I think we need to have a lot more user feedback on what it's been like for them. I don't see this going bad. I don't see it, you know, not working out for people. I think the biggest complaint here is the gray fan for me personally. I think if these were black, it would just look perfect. The gray is going to clash with a lot of things, but you know how we do things around here. A little bit of spray paint can fix that. So I think it performs extremely well. So this is where you guys chime in. Do you like the features that you see here? This removable cover that you can customize and paint to match your theme. This sliding mechanism for the fan, which I keep coming back to because it's really awesome. And I hate the clips that are found on the Dark Rock Pros and the Noctuas. I think the performance of those are fantastic. I just hate those clips. This is where you guys chime in. What would you change about this cooler if you could change anything? And do you think the price is right? Come on down in the comments and tell us. So there you go, guys. Wanted to share with you another air cooler that I have no problems recommending to my audience. It's not an air cooler, or a water cooler. It is an air cooler. It's not a water cooler, but you know, nobody's perfect. So we'll see you guys in the next one. I bent some of these fins. I'm trying to bend them back.